What's going on?
I thought it could be great if I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't know anything about most of it, and they're just kind of like watching it because it's the news. But I have a question.
Go ahead.
If you could explain to me calmly, why are people overall protesting?
Okay. So these are Trump supporters that have been angry and have been fed a false reality by Donald Trump and some of the Republicans in Congress and Republican media for the past month since November 4th about the outcome of this election that took place. The election happened. Democrats won. They both won the popular vote in record-breaking numbers, and they also won the Electoral College votes. Enough Electoral College votes to elect Joe Biden as the next president.
Yeah, I'm following still.
But Republicans claimed over and over again that Democrats were lying and that this election was stolen. They went so far as to say that, Venezuela was involved. I mean, just insane conspiracy theories. Some of the Republican media outlets broke rank and admitted the reality while still trying to make it seem like Trump had this legitimate grievance with the election results. But a lot of these people on the ground that you're seeing did not hear that. They literally only wanted to hear what they want to hear because they're biased. So Donald Trump said on January 6th, which is today, that while the Congress was holding a joint session in both the House of Representatives and in the Senate to confirm and finally authorize the Electoral College vote tally, which is a purely symbolic thing because the election is over, right? But they're just basically
officialize the thing and
they're just official. Yeah, exactly. Donald Trump said that we are going to protest and we're going to march on the streets and we're going to show them that I'm the real president and I actually won, like a baby, like literally like a child. And this is the aftermath of that. They organized the protest. This is unprecedented. Presidents have attended protests before, or spoken at protests, or sent representatives to speak at protests, but they've never literally fucking protested their own capital as they were still president, as Trump is still president until the inauguration.
Okay, so what could that... Normally when people protest, there's like a result, or there's a favorable outcome that's being kind of played for. So what is the thing that they want to happen with this protest there?
Well, it's a little disorganized because, again, there isn't much that they can do once the votes are casted. And they tried to overturn the results by using the court system, and that failed too. So basically what they're trying to do, I guess, is intimidate the government with a show of force to say, no, it does not matter what democracy or the democratic process is. What matters is that we believe Donald Trump is the president. So basically that's what they were trying to do, is like intimidate members of Congress into, I guess, not authorizing the vote, not really thinking it through either. Yeah, it seems like he's still agitating, saying that the election is fraudulent. I don't think he's ever going to give up on that front, but he's still saying that the election was stolen. It was not. And but now he's saying, like, go home in peace. I don't know if the people will follow. I don't know if they're all on fucking Twitter waiting for Donald Trump to say, like, go home. It might work. I think the National Guard is finally being deployed as well to maintain control. But that's where we are now.
I have a good analogy for this. This is like when I say, yo, chat, don't raid the channel of this guy, right? Don't do it, guys. He's a fucking cheater. That dude, yikes. What an asshole. What a this, what a that. But guys, don't raid his channel, but fuck him. He's cheating and dumbass, right? Like, it's kind of hard to tell people not to do something and then still mention the main problem in a negative light,
Yeah, well, it's even worse than that. I mean, it's a great analogy, but it's even worse than that if you were like, no, you should raid him, you should brigade him, and then finally when the brigade is over or when the brigade is happening, you're like, okay, maybe you shouldn't have brigaded them.
But the problem is still there. And then you mentioned that the problem is still there.
But
And
yeah,
it's
but he's still but they're still cheating. Exactly.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
That's exactly what is currently happening.
Also, how did it even get to the point where people got inside the building and went inside the actual chamber itself?
They broke through. So there were 4 barriers that they placed. And if you remember the BLM protest that occurred if you remember the BLM protest that happened in the aftermath of George Floyd's execution in the hands of the police, they were geared up. They were beating the shit out of protesters. They were basically fucking tear gassing them, using every violent measure they could. In this circumstance, however, they pretty much let them in. Like, they barricaded a little bit, but they had 4 separate barricades that they had placed, but it was very light in comparison to how they had originally dealt with the BLM protests. And that's why they were able to just like literally push over the 4 different barricades and walk in to Congress. They broke the doors.
Well, yeah, why did they lock the front door?
They did lock the front door. I'm literally looking at a video right now. It says police opened up the gate.
One more question, then if this is a government official top tier building, why doesn't the main door is like one of those super reinforced steel doors with like you know, like the 3M bulletproof glass top, like anti-rocket door?
Like rust? I think it's because this stuff doesn't normally happen, and they're not expecting it to happen, and that's why they don't have like any sort of additional protective measures in the halls of Congress. Because what police do is create a presence of law and order. Okay, cops aren't literally stopping crimes. They're not like preventing crimes from I guess happening, but their presence is supposed to maintain stability. That's why there's always a need for some form of policing, whether you call them police or not, doesn't matter. So that's part of the reason why you don't need to like fucking literally create the most reinforced like fucking pipe bomb defenses that you would see in like a Rust base.
But at the same time, I feel like some of these inside, some of these things are like sacred, like the chambers or whatever. The way they look, the desk. I feel like this is an opinion. I feel like you're leaving a lot of, maybe even too much room to breathe to even let people have the potential to walk in those places wild. I mean, they could tear the place down if they wanted to.
Yeah, and they did. They walked into actual offices. They took photos. Apparently, they left in a hurry. Like, congresspersons left in a hurry, so their laptops were open. They literally fucking seized their laptops. Someone actually stole like the fucking stand that people use the gavel on and shit. And they did. And someone was shot too, by the way.
Is this an opinion again? I feel like that shouldn't be like a possibility. That's just kind of crazy. People can literally go inside that very place that is dude, isn't that like a very important part of democracy itself?
I mean, yeah, it is, but it's boring too. So it's not like that's usually never a place that people would go and like storm the buildings of. I mean, and it depends entirely on who's doing the storming. But like normally, if these were like black and brown people protesting police brutality, for example, we saw what happened. They called them Antifa, they called them terrorists, and they dealt with them as though they were dealing with enemy combatants. But when it's like fucking Trump supporters storming the building, they literally, they basically fucking, roll out the red carpet. By the way, an IED was found.
In that particular case, does it matter who it is? I think you shouldn't.
Well, the response is different, clearly, as we've seen in regards to like who's doing the act of terror. But I think that the grievances are important. If they were protesting something legitimate, I would be less critical of what's happening right now. If this was like, there's a difference, in my opinion. There's a difference between, for example, protesting for civil rights and the inevitable police violence that breaks out. Because I think that civil rights is a legitimate grievance. It's a legitimate cause for a protest. Whereas in this circumstance, people are literally just protesting because they're upset that Donald Trump is no longer the president. And like they lost a democratic election.
All right. I feel like it kind of sucks that people can raid a building like that. Well, I also kind of at some time kind of feel bad due for the police because it's kind of like I mean, you want to de-escalate, but then people are escalating things that aren't, like I would assume person-to-person violent, but like doing shit like that, especially in like a government building, it's pretty far out, dude, to raid a building like that. Like that's
yeah, no, it is technically it is unprecedented. It does not happen. It is a symbol, though. Ultimately, like Congress is where things happen, obviously, where legislation happens, but it's symbolic, and this is a symbolic show of force.
Okay, so one more question then. If people were already in, why didn't they like fuck? I hate to use game examples. The place where people would have to walk through to get inside. Why didn't they like put a smoke there or put like a tear gas at that spot so that people can't walk in? Just like in Rust, when you raid a building, they put incendiary rocket at the entrance so you can't walk through because you get burned.
Yeah, they didn't barricade it appropriately, possibly because they didn't think that this was going to happen, or partially because they themselves do not feel that these people protesting are protesting in an unjust capacity. This is a good time to remind everybody that 84% of cops voted for Donald Trump. 84%, according to Police Magazine, against Hillary Clinton, voted for Donald Trump. And their favorability for Donald Trump only grew in the past 4 years. Cops love Donald Trump. They just do. They think that Donald Trump's agitations are just. They think that Donald Trump unshackling their restrictions, their limited restrictions, they don't really have a lot of restrictions anyway, was not necessarily a bad thing. So, of course, these are people that are like, there's literally people taking photos with them. I showed this earlier on the stream.
Well, are you looking on screen and see people in front? This guy has like a tier 4 armor. He's wearing an Alton with glasses, full tactical gear, kitted out the wazoo. How are these guys the police?
No. No. A lot of those are LARPers. They're doing live action role play. And I'll show you. Though. I'll show you the other thing. Like, there's people like waving Confederate flags inside of Congress right now. Like, that's a flag of a secessionist terrorist group. Okay, the Confederate flag is a flag that the South waved when they wanted to maintain their rights to own slaves, right? And they fought a battle and they lost. And these motherfuckers are still waving it inside of the current halls of Congress. That's a terrorist flag. It's no different than waving the Nazi flag. I'm sorry to offend people, but if your sensibilities are that fragile, get offended. That's no different than waving the Nazi flag. And they're doing that and acting like they're the ones who literally love America when it's the opposite. Same thing with this video that I have up right now of cops taking selfies with literally the fucking terrorists themselves. Like, they broke in and cops are taking selfies with them. That's insanity. That's not normal.
Okay. This is a hot take, but I think one of the lessons or one of the things we could do better, in my opinion, one takeaway, people might say this is dumb. They should have on important government buildings like that are important to to democracy, to have the doors be anti-rocket. So people really,
no, it's not just about the doors, because look, the reality is when you have this many people agitated, it's not the fucking halls of Congress being breached that's the problem. The real problem is the fact that we got to a point where hundreds of thousands of Americans legitimately flew from all around the country to like literally go and do a show of force against the government. The problem is so much larger than simply saying like, oh, if we make the Congress doors impenetrable. It's the conditions that created this many angry people. We have to analyze why people are this angry and how they got to this point. Like, there's so much more happening than just like making the Congress doors not breachable.
Well, a lot of it comes down to, I would assume, the president's his behavior and what he's broadcasting on national television and on
that's a contributing factor, certainly. But it's not just Donald Trump; it's the entirety of the Republican Party that Donald Trump basically took over. Like he he didn't do anything different than like regular Republicans. He just expanded on the things that Republicans used to say. Back in the day, Republicans would say states' rights, or they would say, you know, black people are taking welfare and we need to cut back on entitlements and we need to cut back on welfare.
Okay.
There's a famous Republican strategist that worked with Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan who openly admits that before 1964, he used to say the N-word with a hard R. N-word, N-word, N-word. And then after the civil rights movement, you couldn't say the N-word anymore because that was frowned upon. So what did you start saying? You start saying we're going to cut, that's forced busing. We're busing, you know, black people and white people together to the same schools. That's why you started saying we need to segregate schools again. Or you need to say you need to cut entitlements and you need to cut benefits. And as long as you were kind of alluding to the fact that like black people are taking advantage of the system, then you know, white people will get on board with like even harming their own current conditions.
That makes sense.
So now Donald Trump basically took on that idea and expanded on it by saying, instead of saying like immigration is a real problem, we need to focus on like immigrants coming into the country, when it's not even a problem that immigrants are coming into the country, by the way, but that's a much larger conversation. He basically said Mexicans are rapists. He said MS-13 are animals and, you know, immigrants are animals. Oh, wait, I'm not talking about all immigrants. I'm just talking about MS-13, the violent criminal ones.
Listen. This is a hot topic here, but listen, in my opinion, okay, coming from Quebec that has like a crazy diversity percentage or whatever, and a lot of immigrants work really hard, okay? And some of these kids that you go to school, French was my main language, and they spoke it better than me. They were more eloquent, and they were very hardworking people. And I don't want to sell your content, but basically, I don't know. I think it's Pog. Also, people have there's like a market called Adonis or whatever, and then we used to go to all these like supermarkets. Now we go there like almost all the time, and it's fucking Pog food. I don't know. Regardless, if you're about to talk about something on stream that's like important, you can just cut me off and talk about that. By the way.
Yeah, no, it's fine. This is an important subject that I think is good to talk about, no matter how many people see it or hear it. I'll get back to like the latest things that are happening right now, but yeah, no, immigrants are like, there is no country that has never benefited from immigrants. I mean, that's how culture works. People say, you know, Western culture is this or white culture is that, when in fact, like, no, immigration and sharing across cultures, whether it be a consequence of war or trade, is the reason why we have the technological achievements that we do. If it wasn't for like the Chinese, for example, we wouldn't have paper or gunpowder. If it wasn't for the Muslim world in the golden era of Islam, we wouldn't have mathematics or medicine in the way that we do currently, that we take advantage of. People don't know this, but the numerals that you use are fucking Arabic. The number 0 is literally an Arabic invention. It's an invention of the Islamic golden era.
Yeah. Can I slow down a little bit here? Even though that's correct, sometimes I think about these things, and I know that some of that is just slightly wrong. It's like, this is kind of weird because
or Indian. Sorry.
Because sometimes you get to these places anyway. Fuck it. Well, I don't want to sound weird. Just that it's easy for me to make video game examples. It's like people saying you know, like if it wasn't for PewDiePie, he invented Let's Plays and he made. And it's like, dude, people playing games and broadcasting it, people would have gotten there. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a matter of who was there first. It's about sharing, and we all make it better. I mean, like, it's kind of like me taking Let's Play or me going on Twitch and reappropriating like Just Chatting React Andy content to react to political coverage. Like, I didn't invent it. I didn't do anything. I just like modified it to my own purposes. And as a consequence of that, we just made new content that's entertaining and hopefully educational as well.
No, I realize the basis of our argument, and yeah, it still makes sense. Yeah, you're right. I was just really surprised to see that it was even possible for people to be in those buildings and do those things. I think that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, but remember, it's not necessarily the immediate actions that's the big problem here. It's the fact that so many years of political development and anger that these people felt, whether it's legitimate or not, led to them taking action in this way. Because you can't solve the problem by just like enforcing stronger controls or attacking back in a more violent way or meeting violence with more violence. You have to solve the actual problems that create that opportunity for people to radicalize in this way. And some of that comes from enforcement, certainly, especially in the short term. Right now, like you have to deal with the people that are there. You have to deal with it somehow. But you also have to think about it in the long term. Like, how do you deal with it in the long term? And that is about giving people more benefits, allowing them not to live with the fear that like they can't fucking survive if they get fired from their job because they're going to lose their health care. Like that all slowly but surely chips away at the problems at the heart of American society. That's how it works.
I mean, and some people were saying the word coup.
Yeah, a coup d'etat usually is not.
I didn't necessarily agree because these aren't like officials or like moving parts of the party, and they're not like, gonna like get power from this. These are like civilians. Like this couldn't possibly give them power, right?
Yeah, it's I mean, this is not backed by the military. A coup is usually dictated historically by a military force that is like turning on whatever the current government is, and it's done with like an armed insurrection. This would be a revolution, I guess, technically, but it's not that either. And there are clear-cut goals, clear-cut demands in the aftermath of a coup, and there's a changing of the government usually. And this is more of like a hog rebellion, I guess, or a revolt,
All right.
an uprising.
So when does that end? Because I see I looked at NBC, and there's a lot of fucking people there, dude. It's like stacked out.
Yeah, there's still a lot of people there, but I think they're eventually going to start clearing out. They're going to tire themselves. They're going to secure the building. I think they have already secured the building. So basically, things are going to get back to normal a little bit. The SWAT team is currently arriving as I'm seeing right now. The steps of the Capitol. Yeah, the SWAT team is going to start arriving at the steps of the Capitol. They're going to start moving in. There's an FBI SWAT team currently in the Capitol complex. And they're going to come in with guns and do a show of force and scare people into submission. And then hopefully what I'm afraid of, and I got to go after this, but what I'm afraid of is maybe it might turn violent again at night when these people start fighting other like, leftist protesters or counter protesters or something like that, rather because they can't fucking fight back against the government, obviously, because the government has way more guns and isn't afraid to use like a show of force if they have to. Yeah,
I'm looking right now. All the PvP pros are coming in, and all the RPers are forced to get out.
Exactly. No, it's like Shroud and H June are rolling up on the base now.
Feels bad, man. Oh, it feels good, man.
All right. Do you have another question, or is it good?
That was good. No, because I couldn't find it anywhere. I could see that what was going on, but not why. But that's good. You told me.
Yeah, no problem. All right, man.
Feels good, dude. Have a good one, dude. Goodbye.
Bye. Who was that? Did people just come in and ask questions? No, that is another streamer by the name of XQC. And he's a gamer. He's like a ex-Overwatch pro. He's not, but he has a massive audience. A friend of mine. He's an open-minded person overall, and I don't mind talking to people that give me an opportunity to spread what I believe in and educate as many people as possible on my perspective or this kind of commentary that they normally would never receive. He has 1 IQ takes. Okay, dude, like that's the average fucking gamer who is 14 years old. Okay, I mean he's not 14, but like, what do you want? Like, dude, no Nazi ever says. Okay, let me just say something to you. Okay, no Nazi ever says, "Oh, dude, sorry, that's emotional labor, or this is a waste of my fucking time to sit and like describe a concept to you, Sweaty. No, they sit the fuck down and they try to describe to people why white genocide is actually happening. And those people are fucking freaks, okay? So why the fuck would I do the exact same thing? Like some goddamn liberals like, no, sorry, I'm just not going to take the time right now. I need self-care and I need to cover the stories on my own when someone is like legitimately asking for information.